This presentation, Incentivizing Transparency and Accountability, is presented by Group 3. The major platforms allow advertisers to accurately and efficiently reach those individuals most likely to be interested in the product, service, or information on offer. This service is enormously beneficial in many ways, but the algorithms that make this content tailoring possible are inherently biased, broadly facilitating outcomes that are systematically less favorable to particular individuals without relevant justifications for such harms. Bias in algorithms can emanate from unrepresentative or incomplete training data or the reliance on flawed information that reflects historical inequalities. If left unchecked, biased algorithms can lead to decisions which have a collective disparate impact on certain groups of people, even without the programmer's intention to discriminate. This proposal seeks to address algorithmic bias in distribution of advertisements on social media platforms. Algorithmic bias means even when an advertiser may not choose to specifically target men, as with the ad on the right, the advertiser's employment advertisement goes to a male user 13 times for every female user. The graph on the left in this slide demonstrates how housing ads are disproportionately distributed to women. What's more, algorithmic bias is difficult to counteract since it is impossible for someone who didn't see a relevant housing ad to prove that discriminatory targeting is responsible. Though major social media platforms have increased transparency, it is almost exclusively related to enforcement of content policies and rules. Data on advertising or commerce-related restrictions is extremely limited. Our proposed solutions include 1, mandatory disclosure on data used for ad targeting and easily accessible opt-out options for users. 2, 50% of non-targeted, non-algorithmically optimized impressions. And 3, independent oversight board and annual rating system to incentivize stakeholders. We suggest incentivizing increased transparency to facilitate actionable response and a measure of reasonable accountability to inform social media companies, users, and advertisers alike, allowing them to make informed response and create momentum for improving biased technology.
The first solution we propose is to mandate social media companies to disclose data used in targeting ads, whether that is set by the advertiser themselves or determined by algorithm. We also suggest that policy should mandate the opt-out option for users to be easily accessible. Well, social media companies may say that they currently have both. The setup and interface for people to see why they're getting the ad and how to opt out are not always very intuitive. Next. Currently, if you are seeing an ad like this on Facebook, you will have to click through a couple of times to see why you're seeing this ad and try to opt out if you can go into your ad preferences. We think this policy should be accompanied by tech solutions that incorporate a better interface design to notify users of their rights. Next. The second solution is to reserve 50% of ad impressions to be non-targeted or not optimized by algorithm. This should mitigate potential human and algorithm bias in ad targeting, reduce polarization and discrimination, and also it should deter disinformation campaigns targeting particular demographics. Next. What does it mean for advertisers if 50% of their ad impressions were then forwarded to people who are not necessarily in their targeted group? It is true that the conversion rate may see a slight drop. It is also true that for users, they may be seeing less relevant ads on their feed, but we believe that this should outweigh the harm the system is usually creating on social media. Next. What does it mean for the platforms that heavily rely on ad revenue? We believe that there could be ways to incentivize social media platforms to adopt the new practices through tax break or to link their compliance to these policies to their ESG score so that impact investors could reward those companies who do better on making sure the users are not abused or discriminated against in their ad functions. Next.
The third and final solution that we propose is providing an independent oversight board. While independent oversight boards, such as those recently created at Facebook, are a positive step, they lack the requisite enforcement mechanisms to adequately incentivize the company to follow through on its commitment to better content moderation. The main goals of the oversight board are to provide outside accountability, create an effective enforcement mechanism, incentivize transparency, create rewards for compliance, and encourage cooperation between platforms and the board. Our proposal is to bring together independent oversight boards for companies by selecting experts in a variety of fields based on each company's unique needs. Next. So how would the independent oversight board enforce better content moderation? The main way companies would be compelled to be transparent and open is by receiving an annual ranking based on each company's oversight board's data from the year. These experts assign a company a grade ranging from A through F based on the level of transparency each company provides when disclosing how user data is mined and utilized for profit. More on how this will be calculated and analyzed will be in the next slide. Each report would then be published, allowing the general public to read about what companies are doing in terms of both being transparent and fair. Additionally, company grades would appear along with ESG scores as previously mentioned, so investors as well as the public would be able to view the company's data and make informed decisions. Companies that operated on a more equitable basis and were more transparent would receive tax cuts as a financial incentive to combat the potential for lost revenue when users opt out of target-based ads. Of course, this is not without issues such as non-compliance of the company with the oversight board and the potential for small businesses to suffer from lack of targeted ads. Next. So here are some examples of how the oversight board may quantitatively analyze the success or lack thereof of a given company in transparency, options given to users, and the effectiveness of the platform's communication with users. It's important to remember that other metrics will need to be used outside of mathematical ones to really give a full picture of the platform's transparency. Metrics such as communication are likely a more subjective and qualitative analysis that will need to be determined by industry experts given the specific platform's needs. Next. So here's an example of how such a grading scale might look in real life and the ways each grade could be given, as well as the percent tax deduction that correlates with each grade. There are also plus and minus marks in each grade except for F if a platform is closer to the grade above or the grade below. And these plus and minus marks would need to be given by industry experts depending on each specific platform. Next.
In light of the above, the group went further to look at these issues outside of the geographical borders of the US and the UK from a global perspective. We noted that the use of political ads is rampant in Australia, with these ads being on the basis of gender, race, and class stereotypes, hence perpetuating discrimination. In Africa, on the other hand, issues lie most in political ads and messaging. We use the case study of Kenya's elections in 2017 when Cambridge Analytica allegedly hijacked Kenya's democracy by manipulating voters with targeted ads and content that smeared the opposition's candidate as being violent, corrupt, and dangerous. This led to incitement of violence and trouble wars, considering the tribalistic nature of elections in the country and other countries such as Nigeria and Ethiopia. With the tribalistic nature of elections in various African countries, we further advocate for transparency and accountability in data mining and ads to ensure that users' rights to know how the data they provide is being used and how it shapes political discourse is provided as opposed to being weaponized. Next. As to the current barriers for implementation of our solutions, due to policy issues in the various countries, implementation may not be immediate, but a long-term plan. Thank you.